County Superior Court is now in session. Honorable Judge Gregory A. Adams presiding.
Hi, good morning. You may be seated. Would the detective return to the witness stand, please? And thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, for returning in a timely fashion so we can resume. Let's go ahead and swear him in, Deputy Garrett, since it's a new day.
Raise your right hand and solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth shall be. I do. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Detective Andrew Thompson, first name A-N-D-R-E-W, last name T-H-O-M-P-S-O-N.
Ms. Clegg is with you.
Thank you, sir.
You're quite welcome.
Your Honor, before I begin, resume my questioning, at this time I would like to tender into evidence Defense Exhibit number 21, which has been previously identified as the sketch, and Defense Exhibit number 22, which was the executed consent to search warrant.
Any objection to 21 or 22?
Your Honor, excuse me. No,
All right, both are admitted. Both may be published. 21 and 22 have been admitted into the record.
Going to place.
You may.
That does. I put it on there. It does a lot of good. I'm sure. Hopefully, it will be activated in a moment. Okay. Taking a look at this document, sir, is that a copy of the sketch that was prepared pursuant to this investigation?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you actually indicated, I believe, that there were 3 sketches that were prepared, and you, after having spoken with the eyewitnesses and having examined the 3 sketches, determined that this was the one that would be disseminated or distributed to the public. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you at some point see Hemi Newman?
The first time I physically saw Hemi Newman was when he was being interviewed at the police department.
Okay. So you did actually come into contact with him. You saw him face to face at some point.
That's correct.
Okay. You also, I think, helped transport him from the DeKalb County Jail to his first appearance hearing back on January the 5th, correct?
That's correct.
Does that sketch, in your opinion, look like him?
When I compare his actual photo side by side with the sketch, there were very strong similarities.
Okay. Could you tell us what those similarities were, sir?
The nose, the eyes, as close as you can with the sketch, the lips, it looked very similar to each other.
Do you know whether or not this sketch was disseminated to any employee of the General Electric Company?
I do not know.
Did anyone from the General Electric Company ever call you up and say, gosh, that sure looks like Hemi Newman?
No.
Did anyone who attended the Shiva at Andrea Sneiderman's house, and do you know what a Shiva is?
It was explained to me.
Okay. Did anyone who had attended the Shiva indicate to you that that appeared to be Hemi Newman to them?
No, no one indicated that.
To your knowledge, did anyone who had attended the funeral of Rusty Sneiderman indicate to you that that sketch appeared to be Hemi Newman?
No.
Okay. Now, I'll take that down, sir. We were talking yesterday at the end of the day about phone records that had been subpoenaed on Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone. Is that correct?
I recall that, yes.
Okay. And I had marked an exhibit as Defense Exhibit number 24. Okay. And may I approach
You
that?
may.
Okay. Sir, let me show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit number 24 and ask if you recognize that document, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what do you recognize that document to be?
This is a grand jury subpoena that we use to subpoena records, in this case a cell phone record.
Okay. And what was the date of that subpoena, sir?
The date of this subpoena is November 18th.
Of 2010?
2010.
And is there a particular phone number listed on there, sir?
Yes.
What is that phone number, sir?
404-374-1931.
Okay. And was that, had you determined that that was Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone number?
I'm not sure whose phone number that is. It doesn't have a name with it on this document, but it was a phone number that we need to get the cell phone records for in relation to the homicide.
Obviously, that number was gathered back on November the 18th of 2010, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you remember the circumstances under which that phone number had been gathered as part of the investigation?
Any phone numbers that we had gathered at that stage would have been from family numbers, from information given to us from the family for Rusty or anybody else that we deemed important at the time.
So at this time, you have no idea whose phone number that was?
No, because there's no name on the document here indicating who the phone number belongs to.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, as well as everybody else.
Obviously, this was a shooting that had occurred in broad daylight in a Dunwoody shopping center, correct?
Yeah, basically it's a large shopping center, correct?
There were certain elements that suggested that it might have been a premeditated hit, correct?
There are elements that suggested that, correct?
Okay. And as such, in those circumstances, an individual's spouse is an immediate person of interest, are they not?
That is correct.
And it was with that in mind that you approached Mrs. Sneiderman when you spoke to her on November the 19th of 2010, correct?
Yes, but I also was keeping in mind that this was the victim, the wife of the person who was just killed, and I did not approach her strictly as a solid suspect, but it was trying to balance out suspect and the wife of the victim who's going through a lot of emotions and may not have anything to do with it.
So while you were sympathetic towards her, you also had a healthy degree of skepticism as to what she might say, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, before I forget, I would move to tender into evidence defense exhibit number 24.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 24 is admitted without objection.
Now, when you went over to the house on the 18th, which would have been the day before the interview with Andrea Sneiderman, you said that you were with Sergeant Cordolino, correct?
That's correct.
And you initially said yesterday that you had a search warrant in your possession, correct?
I still believe that. That's correct.
Okay. Even though the search warrant for the house in question is dated the 19th, correct?
Right. The search warrant that you showed me was dated the 19th, which is the day after
Okay.
the 18th.
But you believe that despite the fact that the search warrant is dated the 19th, you had it with you in your possession on the 18th. Is that correct, sir?
I believe I had a search warrant with me on the 18th, even though we cannot produce the copy of it. I strongly believe I had a search warrant to get into the house.
If you had obtained a search warrant, and when you say a search warrant, you're talking specifically a search warrant for the house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If you had obtained a search warrant on the 18th, there would have been no need to obtain a second search warrant on the 19th, would there?
That's correct.
Okay.
Unless, the only reason why there would have been a new search warrant written up on the next day if there were additional facts or information I needed to add to the search warrant that I discovered or realized I left out of the original search warrant. So a new search warrant would have been drawn up the following day to go back to the house.
You understand, sir, you don't issue the search warrant, right?
That's correct.
You prepare something called an affidavit for a search warrant, correct?
That's correct.
You present that to a magistrate court judge, correct?
Yes.
And if the magistrate court believes there is sufficient material contained in the affidavit, he or she will issue the warrant, correct?
That's correct.
Once the warrant is issued, you don't need to go and back up the original warrant application, do you?
That's not correct.
You do?
Occasionally, the wording in the search warrant does not cover what you are specifically looking for or new information that comes up, the wording has to be changed in the search warrant to cover what you're going to the location to look for. And I don't know I can't remember if that was the case or not in this, but that's a possibility with any search warrant. If the original verbiage you put into the affidavit, if the original language you put into the affidavit needs to be changed for whatever the reason, for new information between when it was taken out and when you're getting there, could be the address has to be changed. You have to go back, do a failure to serve on this first search warrant and have a new search warrant reissued.
Did you, in fact, follow that procedure in this case, sir?
I honestly don't remember.
You have no recollection of having followed any such procedure in this case, do you, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now, when you met with Andrea on the 19th, is it fair to say that your primary focus was Rusty's business partners?
At this point, correct.
You wanted to get to know Rusty. I think you said that yesterday, especially, and I think you said something to the effect of the Rusty who Andrea might not have known herself.
Correct.
Okay. She sees Rusty at home. Rusty's got another life when he's off conducting business, correct?
It was a possibility.
And that was your focus when you were attempting to interview Mrs. Sneiderman back on the 19th of November of 2010, correct?
The focus for the interview on the 19th was to get as much, again, it was the start of the investigation. I had absolutely no information on anybody. And because I can't talk to Rusty, my focus was to learn more about Rusty and his life as far as the family knew it.
Now, you were depending upon the cooperation of Mrs. Sneiderman, correct?
That's correct.
And she provided you information concerning Rusty's previous business dealings, correct?
Yes, she did.
She told you how Rusty was terminated from, I guess, Discovery Point sometime earlier in the year of 2010, correct?
Yes.
She told you that was somewhere in the neighborhood of about March or April, correct?
I believe so.
And at some point during the course of the interview, she said, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but I think you were barking up the wrong tree, correct?
Yes, she also said that about Hemi Newman.
Did she use the phrase, barking up the wrong tree about Hemi Newman?
She did not use that phrase, no.
Okay. Did she use that phrase at all?
That specific
In
phrase?
regards to Hemi Newman? Yeah.
No.
Did she use that specific phrase in talking about Rusty's business connections?
That specific phrase, yes.
Okay. Now, you have indicated during the course of your testimony that once you talked to Mrs. Sneiderman about Hemi Newman, you figured there was nothing further to investigate because she said there was no need to do so, correct?
That's correct.
But she also said there was no real need to conduct any further investigation regarding his business associates, correct?
That's correct. Now, there's a difference with this. She said that there was no need to investigate the business contacts, but there was also the information that she provided the most detail for, whereas when she said that we didn't need to pay attention to Hemi, she minimalized the importance of Hemi by making it appear on the 19th that there was a one-time conversation with what was going on, so diverted my attention from that to the stuff that she was giving the most attention to, or the most detail to, which was the business contacts.
I just asked you a question, did I not, sir, about the information concerning Rusty's business contacts?
Yes.
And somehow or another, in order to give your answer, you started talking about what Andrea said about Hemi Newman, right?
That's correct. I'm trying to explain why I was focusing on the business contacts.
Okay. So that somehow explains why you focused on the business contacts, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you did focus quite a bit on the business contacts, right?
Yes, I did.
Especially on Discovery Point, right?
Yes, I did.
You interviewed someone by the name of Alex Figueroa, right?
That's correct.
Did Andrea give you Alex Figueroa's name?
No, that name came from interviews with Discovery Point staff.
Okay. Who else had you interviewed with Discovery Point as best you can recall, sir?
There was a name that Andrea gave me that Rusty spoke to often. I believe she was the first person, so I don't recall the name right off the top of my head. You'd have to refresh my memory on that.
Did you talk to a Demi Tanner?
Yes, I did.
Did you talk to a Pamela Carmen?
The name sounds familiar. I'd have to look at the documentation.
Did you talk to, is it Cliff Clark? Is that the gentleman's name?
I believe that's the owner's name.
He's the actual owner of the company, and
That's
did you
correct.
talk to his wife as well?
I did.
Did you talk to them on December 20th of 2010?
I'd have to look at the documentation to specify
Let me
the
show
date.
you what has been marked, and may I approach you?
You may. What number is this, Mr. Clegg?
It's defendant's exhibit number 20. It's been previously marked for
Okay.
purposes of identification.
Yes, sir, you may approach.
Yes, thank you, sir. Let me show you, sir, that what has been marked for purposes of identification as defendant's exhibit number 20. You recognize that document, sir?
Yes, sir.
And if you would turn to the chronologically notated entry regarding December 20th of 2010.
Finish reading, look up.
Yes, sir.
He's ready.
Okay. Does that refresh your memory as to when you would have interviewed Mr. Clark and his wife?
That's correct. It does.
Would that have been on December 20th of 2010?
Yes, I did.
At that time, you had already begun to focus on Hemi Newman, had you not?
On the December 20th, I believe we had started looking for the rental vehicle by that time.
Okay. You had testified yesterday that you had located or figured out it was a Kia on December the 2nd, correct?
Then, yes,
That would have been 18 days before you actually got around to interviewing the Clarks, correct?
that's correct.
You already had the name Hemi Newman at that point, right?
I don't know I don't remember the day that we actually got the list of the people who had rented the car.
You had the name Hemi Newman as of November the 19th.
Oh, yes, we did have
2010,
we did
you not,
have
sir?
Hemi Newman's name as on the 19th.
When did you figure out that Hemi Newman had rented a 2011 silver Kia Sedona?
I'd have to look at the document.
Please feel free to do so.
Do you have the specific date for me to go
No,
to?
sir, I don't. I don't know when you did it. I'll tell you what, let me,
Yeah, he's looking up. Ask him a question.
I'm not happy.
He's ready.
You object if you wish. You understand, you see the
So
document?
I'll know I need to object.
Okay. You want to ask for-
No.
All right. May I approach, sir?
Yes, you may, but I think he's reviewed the document. Did you want him to answer that last question?
I'm moving on to another question.
All right, don't answer that question.
Okay. Looking at defendant's exhibit number 23, so we discussed that briefly yesterday, did we not?
Yes, we did.
And that is a document that was gathered in the course of the investigation by the Dunwoody Police Department into this case, correct?
That's correct.
And that deals with, and I don't want you to go into the specifics, but it deals with requests concerning information for Hemi Newman, does it not?
Yes, it does.
What was the date that that particular document was requested and generated?
December 15th.
December 15th, 5 days before you actually got around to interviewing Mr. and Mrs. Clark, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, at that point, you knew you had Hemi Newman's name from talking to Andrea, correct?
Yes,
You had figured out that it was a Kia Sedona, correct?
that's correct.
You had figured that out by December the 2nd, correct?
Yes,
And you were at that point focusing, as of December 15th, on Hemi Newman, correct?
I was focusing on Discovery Point at that time and had assigned the investigation to Hemi Newman to other people that were assisting me with the investigation.
Okay, so you were investigating a portion of the case, is that correct?
Yes,
You were investigating the portion of the case that dealt with Discovery Point, correct?
that's correct.
You were not investigating the portion of the case that had to do with Hemi Newman?
Not at that point because I did not have any information about that told me I needed to focus on Hemi yet because I did not know about the affair.
You keep saying the affair as if it is a proven matter, sir. Were
Yes,
you
sir.
there
Was I where?
when they engaged in whatever relationship they engaged in?
No, I was not.
Did you know Hemi Newman before his arrest on January the 4th of 2011?
Did I repeat the question?
That is the question. Did
Yeah,
you
repeat
know
the
him?
question. Did I know
Did you
him?
know Hemi Newman before January the 4th of 2011?
No, I did not.
Did you know Andrea Sneiderman before November the 18th of 2010?
No, I did not.
Did you ever see the two of them together yourself before that particular date?
No, I did not. However,
No, I'm not asking. No, I'm sorry, Your Honor, it's not a question that calls
I
for an
understand.
explanation.
No, hold on, Mr. Clay. I'm going to make that determination whether
Okay, well, I'm objecting to his offering an
I'm going to overrule
explanation.
that objection. You can answer that question if you need to.
Okay,
I'm talking to him. I'm looking at you, but I'm talking to him. Answer the question if you need to.
yes, sir.
You can explain if you need to.
After the case was handed over to the DA's office, they obtained information through witnesses.
Well, I'm going to sustain that objection. I will sustain that objection now.
what somebody else.
Right. If you need to explain any part of your answer, I will allow you to do that.
Yes, sir.
But you're going to have to answer his question, and you can explain it if you need to explain that answer.
Yes, sir.
All right? I will sustain that portion of the objection. So
Okay.
ask him another question.
All right, I will do so, sir. So at least somebody in the Dunwoody Police Department was looking at Hemi Newman as early as December 15th of 2010, correct?
That's correct.
You were the lead investigator, were you not?
Yes, I was.
Was it communicated to you in the course of this investigation that someone at the Dunwoody Police Department was looking into Hemi Newman's background?
I assigned that to, I believe, Sergeant Cordolino to get in touch with Hemi Newman.
So you knew, right?
Yes.
You knew as of December 15th, right?
Yes.
Had you put together and connected the dots that he had rented that kind of car as of December 15th?
May I refer back to,
You can,
The notes?
if you do not recall, sir, you can certainly attempt to refresh your memory.
yes, I would like to refresh my memory. It was the
You may look at
previous,
your report. Oh, yeah. You may look at
Do
your
you have the
report.
report?
it was the previous document.
Where is it? Is Kelly here? Yes, sir. You may approach. It has not been admitted into evidence, but you can refer to it.
No, I'm not.
Well, I understand. If you want to look at his report, I'm going to let him look at it. When you finish refreshing your memory, look up and answer his question. He's ready. Answer his question.
Okay.
Would you please repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Was there any, had you at that point, as of December 15th, when that request was run on the background of Hemi Newman, had you connected the dots and figured out that Hemi Newman had rented the Kia Sedona?
No.
Okay. When did you figure that out?
December 21st.
December 21st. And that was the day that the actual photograph was taken of the car, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did somebody from the Dunwoody Police Department go out to Enterprise Leasing and interview the people who had in fact rented the car to Hemi Newman?
Yes.
Was that you?
That was not me.
Okay. So as of December 21st, you certainly knew that Hemi Newman had rented the same kind of car, perhaps the car that was driven by the person who killed Rusty Sneiderman, correct?
That's correct.
Was Hemi Newman arrested on December 21st?
No.
Was Hemi Newman arrested on December 22nd?
No.
Was he arrested on the 23rd,
No.
24th,
Nope.
25th,
Nope.
26th,
No.
27th,
Nope.
28th,
Nope.
29th,
Nope.
30th,
No.
31st,
Nope.
1st,
Nope.
2nd,
Nope.
3rd,
Nope.
4th?
Yes.
Okay. Did, between December 21st and January the 4th, Andrea Sneiderman do anything to discourage you or other members of the Dunwoody Police Department from arresting Hemi Newman?
Not to my knowledge, but at some point during that time I was out of country, so I did not, there was no communication between me and the Dunwoody Police Department.
So you had, to your knowledge, was there any communication between the Dunwoody Police Department and Andrea Sneiderman between December 21st and January the 4th?
No.
To your knowledge, had anyone from the Dunwoody Police Department communicated to Andrea Sneiderman that Hemi Newman had in fact rented such a vehicle?
No, but during the way I normally operate my investigations is once I find a plausible suspect with it, I do not go back to the witness or a victim or contact the suspect until I am able to research the suspect to get more information so I can establish real facts about that person. So when I do go back and ask a victim or a witness or anybody about that suspect, I can gauge their honesty about it and hopefully get some more information and more questions.
Real facts are important in an investigation, correct?
Absolutely.
It is great to have a possible motive, but a motive is not a fact. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay. So when you get a name, you don't want to rely strictly on a motive. What you want to rely on is tangible evidence that you can ultimately present to the suspect and say, we got you, right?
Yes.
You want to be able to find the car, right?
Yes.
You want to be able to find the gun, right?
Yes.
You want to be able to find the beard, right?
Yes.
And until you do that, you really don't have anything, do you?
Don't have as much as I would like to have.
Did Andrea Sneiderman at any point do anything to discourage you from looking for the van?
No.
Did Andrea Sneiderman do anything to discourage you from looking as to whether or not Hemi Newman had a gun?
No.
Did Andrea Sneiderman ever make any statement to you concerning whether Hemi Newman had a beard?
No, but she failed to make a lot of statements to me. She failed to make a lot of statements to me.
I'm not asking whether she failed to make a lot of statements, sir. I'm asking you whether she made a statement concerning that subject.
That beard, no, she did not.
Okay. Did you know where Hemi Newman was living as of December 21st?
Yes, because of the that previous document.
Okay. And when you say that previous document, is that the background check that was run on him?
Yes, it's Defense Exhibit number 23.
Okay. And so you knew where he was, right?
Yes.
Did you get a search warrant for Hemi Newman's house on December 21st?
I'd have to look at the search warrant to figure out the date. I don't recall the date that it was taken out.
Do you have any knowledge of any search warrant being executed at Hemi Newman's house in the month of December in the year of 2010?
Define house. I mean, which house are we talking
Where
about?
he was living.
There was a search warrant executed at the location he was living.
When was that?
I'd have to look at the document to give you the date.
Was it before or after his arrest?
Most likely after his arrest.
He was arrested in January of 2011, was he not?
Yes, January 4th.
So in response to the question, are you aware of any search warrant being executed at the home of Hemi Newman in December of 2010, is the answer no?
The answer is I don't recall.
Was it, I'm presuming if you get the name of a suspect and you don't have enough tangible evidence to arrest that suspect, sometimes it doesn't make sense to show the suspect your cards early. Is that a fair statement?
Sometimes.
You don't want to tip your hand, correct?
That's correct.
If you have a possible suspect, you don't want to, if you have a motive, but no facts to back up the motive, you don't want to go necessarily confront that suspect immediately and tip them off as to what's coming, right?
Sometimes that is the case, but sometimes you have no choice.
Yes. You had a choice in this case, right?
We did.
Okay, and you chose not to play your cards until you gathered further evidence, correct?
I believe so.
What further evidence was gathered between December 21st and January the 4th, sir? You had the car at that point.
I don't believe any further information was gathered, but I'd have to look up the documentation to refresh my memory on that.
Why was there a delay of 13 days before you got around to arresting him?
I was out of country at that point, so I don't know exactly what the delay was. I can tell you what I was told the delay was.
Let me ask you this, sir. Does an investigation cease simply because the lead detective is out of the country?
No, it does not.
Was anyone conducting surveillance of Hemi Newman during that time?
When I had left the country, I left the information for Hemi Newman in charge of Sergeant Cordelano.
Do you know, and if you do not, that is perfectly fine, sir, but do you know whether any representative of the Dunwoody Police Department was conducting surveillance of Hemi Newman during the period of time from December 21st until January the 4th?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know if any representative of the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office was conducting surveillance of Hemi Newman during that same time period?
I was not informed.
Okay. You knew at that time that the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office was involved in the investigation, did you not?
Yes, they were.
They were the folks who actually went out and took the picture of the rental Kia Sedona, correct?
That's correct.
Which would have been again on December 21st, correct?
That's correct.
Now, do you know whether anyone from the Dunwoody Police Department was conducting surveillance of Andrea Sneiderman?
We were not conducting surveillance of Andrea Sneiderman.
So there was no conducting surveillance of Mrs. Sneiderman, and you don't know if there was surveillance of Mr. Newman, correct?
That's correct.
And again, you did not inform Mrs. Sneiderman about the progress in the investigation, correct?
That's correct.
And there was a reason for doing so, right?
Yes.
You thought she might provide information to Mr. Newman, right?
That was a possibility, correct.
Did you subsequently have occasion to examine her phone records concerning that period of time?
I believe we did. I don't recall what the information was that we got from the...
So you did a lot of these things in the course of your investigation, but you do not recall what was the result of your efforts. Is that correct, sir?
I'd have to look at... That's correct. I'd have to look at documentation to refresh my memory.
Now, in the course of your interview with Mrs. Sneiderman on November the 19th, there was one topic or one area where she did not, to use your words, minimize the situation, right?
She did not minimize?
Yes, there was
Yes.
one area, right?
Yes.
And that was the incident of November the 10th, right?
November the 10th.
Yes, the guy on the side of the house.
Oh, correct.
Okay. She emphasized to you that she believed there was a connection, correct?
Yes, she did, with minimal information for us to really follow up with.
You understand that she wasn't the person who was there when her husband confronted the Hispanic gentleman or the identified as Hispanic gentleman outside of her house, correct?
That's correct. She had already left for the day.
Okay. And had a report been made to the Dunwoody Police Department about that?
Yes.
Okay. Were you, or had the Dunwoody Police Department been provided with a path that the individual might have used when he fled the Sneiderman household? Not the household, but the Sneiderman house.
Yes.
Objection,
What's the objection?
based on hearsay.
I'm over with that objection. You can answer that question, Mr. Hand.
Repeat the question, please.
Okay, did you or members of the Dunwoody Police, had you been furnished with information providing you with the path that this individual had allegedly fled from the Sneiderman home back on November the 10th of 2010?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go out on that path yourself?
Yes, I did.
And did you canvass the area asking folks whether or not they had seen any unusual vehicles at that time?
Yes, we canvassed the neighborhood, Andrea's neighborhood. We canvassed the neighborhood on the other side of the path. And I also spoke with the people doing the construction on the work on the house behind Andrea's.
Were any fingerprints found on the gas meter?
No.
Was any attempt made to take fingerprints from the gas meter?
No attempt was made.
Okay. It was reported to the police on November the 10th, right?
Yes.
And no one, I take it, made any attempt to get any fingerprints at that time, right?
That's correct.
You ultimately closed out that particular portion of the investigation on February the 1st, right?
I'd have to refresh my memory on that.
Okay. May I approach?
You may.
Sir, I'm going to show you a document that has been marked for purposes of identification. That's Defendant's Exhibit number 25. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, sir.
What is that document, sir?
This is a investigative supplemental report.
Okay. And was that prepared by yourself?
Yes, it was.
If you would read that over to yourself briefly and then let us know when you're done.
He's ready.
Does that refresh your memory as to when you would have closed out that portion of the investigation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And would that have been on February the 1st of 2000?
It was February the 10th.
I'm sorry, February the 10th of 2011. I apologize, sir. Did you basically conclude that it was probably just some drunk lying by the side of the house?
Yes, I did.
What was your basis for concluding that?
There was no information to advise why there was a person laying next to the house, and somebody who is found laying down next to a house that doesn't belong there without any destruction or damage to the property that it's around. My natural assumption is to think that the person was drunk and passed out walking through the property. They just needed a place to lay down.
You are a detective, right?
Yes.
You rely on facts, right?
Yes.
Is your natural assumption relevant to an investigation?
My natural assumption is relevant as to why I was thinking what I did at that time. That's why I put it down in the report, so I know what I was thinking, why I came to the decision I did. And I also indicated that until information shows contrary to what I believe at the time, this is why I'm closing out the case.
So in preparing that particular report, you basically did not rely on any facts. You simply relied on your natural assumption to draw a conclusion. Is that your testimony, sir?
The facts I had was that nobody could remember anything unusual and advise who this person was. That was the only facts I had to go off of, and I have to come to a conclusion as to a possibility as why that person was there.
Okay. You have not answered the question. Did you not, in fact? Well, no, I mean, you never really answered the question.
The way it's going to work, you can ask questions, but you don't offer commentary.
Okay. Well,
Ask him a question.
Okay. Let me ask you the question again, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did you draw a conclusion based on no facts and based on your natural assumption?
No.
What were the facts?
The facts were there's a person that was found possibly asleep next to the house. The person got up and ran away, grabbed something behind his back. We don't know what it was. And nobody in this neighborhood or construction sites could provide any information as to who this person was or why they were beside the house, why the person was beside the house.
Now, earlier you said that there were virtually no facts in which to conduct a further investigation, correct?
That's correct.
Now you are saying that there are facts that enabled you to draw a conclusion. Is that correct?
There were some facts about what this person was doing, but there was no further facts as to why the person was there.
Okay. Did you interview Andrea Sneiderman on the 24th of November, correct?
Yes, I did.
You interviewed some other members of her family prior to that time, correct?
Yes.
You interviewed, I believe, Don Sneiderman on the 23rd, correct?
Yes.
And Don Sneiderman had been present on the 19th, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
He was present in the house during the interview that we heard yesterday, correct?
Yes.
At one point, there is a discussion about the computer being taken, and Don Snyder interjected something to the effect of he needed the information for purposes of doing taxes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you recall if he had any other thing to add during the course of that interview?
I don't recall.
Do you recall if he was present during the course of the entirety of the interview?
I don't remember if he was there for the entire interview. I know he was there for most of the interview.
Do you recall him ever saying anything about a phone call that he would have had with Andrea Sneiderman the day before on November the 18th of 2010?
During the 19th interview?
During the 18th, yes. On the 19th, did he say anything about a phone conversation he had had with Andrea Sneiderman on the 18th?
No, he did not.
Okay. You interviewed him again on the 23rd, correct?
Yes.
During the course of that, how long did that interview take, sir?
It wasn't that long as interviews go. I honestly would have to look at the timestamp on it.
You have no specific recollection of it at this time, correct?
I remember that it wasn't incredibly, when I say incredibly long, an interview could last up to 3 hours or more. It didn't last that long.
So we can conclude that it was less than 3 hours?
It was less than 3 hours.
Okay. During the course of that interview, did he say anything at all about a phone conversation that he had had with Andrea Sneiderman on November the 18th of 2010?
I'd have to refresh my memory on that.
Okay. You did ask him a number of questions, correct?
Yes.
Did you ask him about Rusty's sexuality?
Yes.
Okay, and specifically, what did you ask him in that regard, if you recall?
I asked him, did Rusty show any, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but
Just paraphrase it as best you can. That's fine.
did Rusty show any indication that he might be gay?
Okay. And did you also ask whether Rusty might be a bisexual?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you knew Rusty Sneiderman was married, right?
Yes.
You knew Rusty Sneiderman had 2 kids, right?
Yes.
Had you gathered any evidence whatsoever to suggest that might be the case?
No, it was questions just to find out try to figure out if Rusty had a secret lifestyle.
You were just trying, and you knew his dad lived in Cleveland, right?
That's correct.
And how long had you understood Rusty to have lived in the Atlanta area at the time that his untimely death occurred back in November of 2010?
I believe it was a number of years.
Did you ask anything of Don Sneiderman about the extent of contact he had with his dad, with his son?
I don't remember that specific question.
You also interviewed Marilyn Sneiderman, did you not?
I did.
Marilyn Sneiderman would have been present on November the 19th as well, correct?
Yes, she was.
And you interviewed Mrs. Sneiderman again, and you asked similar questions of her.
I did.
You asked similar questions also of Herb and Bonnie Greenberg, who were Andrea's parents, right?
I did.
And you asked Andrea those questions as well, correct?
I did.
When you asked any of those 5 people, did you have any reason to believe that that might be the case?
After questioning everybody, I believe that that was not the case.
Okay. Now, you did talk to, when Andrea gave you the name Hemi Newman, it was in direct response to a question you asked, right?
Yes.
And I think you agreed yesterday that there was no hesitation whatsoever from the time when you posed the question until she said, my boss, correct?
That's correct. There was no hesitation.
And then you asked, what's the boss's name? And she gave you the boss's name, correct?
Yes, she did.
And at some point, you had asked something to the effect of, was there someone trying to break up your marriage or show, it expressed an interest in you? Something to that effect. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you ever ask her specifically what was the nature of that expression of interest?
I did.
Okay. And what did she say?
If you want word for word, I'd have to refresh my memory on that. I can paraphrase it.
You do recall asking that question, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever ask about the extent of contact between she and Hemi Newman?
As far as business relationship, or what kind of contact are you referring to?
Any kind of relationship.
Yes.
Okay. And this would have been during the interview of November the 19th, is that correct?
Both the 19th and the 24th.
I'm talking specifically about the 19th at this time.
Okay.
Okay. Did you ask anything about the extent of daily contact between she and Hemi Newman on the 19th?
Not on the 19th.
Did you ask for Hemi Newman's phone number during the course of the interview on the 19th?
On the 19th, I did not ask for the phone number.
Okay. You understood he worked for GE, correct?
Yes.
Did you make any attempt to determine the whereabouts of Hemi Newman on the morning of November the 18th after having spoken to Andrea Sneiderman?
On the 18th, no.
Okay. But on the 19th, after having been provided with his name, did you make any attempt to communicate or find out his whereabouts?
Not on the 19th because the priority was not given to him.
And so on the 19th, you made no attempt, or in the subsequent days, to determine whether or not he had an alibi for that particular day, correct?
Correct, 'cause I didn't have a reason to at that point. I was focusing my investigation on the business contacts.
Focusing on the investigation that Andrea told you you were barking up a wrong tree on, correct?
She did say that, and that was also the information that she provided the most detail for.
Okay. In fact, it was Bonnie Greenberg, Andrea's mom, who basically extended the discussion concerning Henry Newman, right?
Yes, she did.
You were ready to move on to a new subject without asking virtually anything about it, were you?
Yes, that's correct, because Andrea minimized the contact.
Okay. Now, Andrea was a person of interest, right?
Interest and victim.
Okay, and you guys had, at least as to interest, you guys were subpoenaing her phone records the day before, right?
That's correct.
And according to your recollection, when you showed up at the house with a search warrant on the 18th with Gary Cordolino, you guys were pretty much told to go away. We don't care if you got a warrant or not. You ain't coming in this house, right?
That's correct.
And you were irritated by that, right?
I was.
And it aroused your suspicions, correct?
It did not arouse my suspicions, but it irritated me that they weren't cooperating.
Okay. Do you normally take suggestions as to how you ought to conduct an investigation from someone who is a person of interest in the investigation, sir?
I never do.
Okay. You didn't bother to follow up on Hemi Newman because Andrea Sneiderman didn't give you enough information, right?
Andrea Sneiderman did not give me enough information, and she also, the information that she did give me indicated that there was nothing for me to follow up with because it was a one-time thing. It was a one-time pass.
You keep saying one-time act. She didn't say that, did she?
Those specific words?
Yeah.
No, she did not.
Then why do you keep saying it?
Because she said on the day that Hemi Newman expressed his interest in her, that she made it clear, and he understood that she wasn't interested and nothing was going to happen.
Did you ask on November 19th when that day was?
On November 19th, I did not,
Any particular reason why not?
because she minimized the contact, and I was focused on the information that she was going into greater detail for.
So it is her fault that you didn't do your job.
It's her fault that she lied about the contact.
It is her fault that you didn't do your job, right?
No.
Okay. Did you contact anybody with GE to get any sort of background information on the relationship between Hemi Newman and Andrea Sneiderman?
After we had connected Hemi Newman with, I believe it was after his arrest, we dove into the GE information.
Okay. But prior to that, after having been first provided the information by Mrs. Sneiderman, you did not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you ask Andrea whether or not in the course of her business travels on the 19th she ever went anywhere with Hemi Newman?
On the 19th, no.
Okay. Now, at some point you wanted to get contact information for Newman, right?
Yes.
He was a name that had come up in the course of the investigation, correct?
Yes.
But you walked out of the house where Andrea Sneiderman gave you an interview on the 19th without any contact information at all, correct?
I did, because I know there's going to be a follow-up interview, and I wanted to speak to her more about Hemi privately without the family around.
Okay. So, let me make sure I got this straight, sir.
Yes, sir.
There was enough said that you thought, wow, this needs to be discussed further, correct?
There was enough said for me to know that I needed to ask her some more questions about Hemi Newman. That's correct.
So when you're walking out of the house on the 19th of November, you're thinking to yourself, based on what Andrea Sneiderman told me about Hemi Newman, I need to follow up on this discussion, correct?
Yes. One of the reasons why I prefer speaking to people in private is because they are more likely to divulge information that they would not normally divulge in front of family. So not only did she, when I left the house on the 19th, I left the house knowing that this, the way she worded it, and I'm paraphrasing, this was a one-time incident. Everybody was clear and understood that there was no interest in continuing any kind of relationship beyond professional and friendship, and that I should probably follow up with this because she might not be telling me everything in front of family.
Okay. So you were thinking maybe she's disclosed some information, but she might be embarrassed to tell you the rest, right?
There is a possibility.
Okay, so when you quote-unquote say she minimized it, you recognized that she might be minimizing it because something hadn't happened, or she might be quote-unquote minimizing it because she had something to say and she didn't want to say it in front of her family.
That's correct.
That means you obviously had to follow up this investigation on Hemi Newman, right?
Yes, but with the information that was provided on the 19th, I didn't have enough information to prioritize it yet based on everything else I had learned.
You like, when you talk to individuals in cases, to know information that they might not, correct?
Yes.
So when you wanted to talk to Andrea Sneiderman on the 24th, you wanted to be aware of information that might surprise her that you knew, right?
Not at that time.
Why not?
I wanted to get more information from her about her view of their relationship so I could go out, if I felt it was necessary, to follow up on the information that she told me to verify it, which was the interview on the 24th.
You had a phone at that time, I trust, right?
Yes.
Okay. Andrea had a phone at that time, right?
Yes.
At some point during the course of the interview on the 19th, the phone was present, right?
Which phone?
Andrea's phone.
Yes.
Did you ask her if Hemi Newman's name was in her contacts on her phone?
No, I did not.
Why on earth not?
I made a mistake.
Okay. That was certainly not a question that you would be embarrassed to pose to her, or she might be embarrassed to answer and provide to you, correct?
That's correct.
You simply did not get that information, correct?
That's correct.
Did you call her the next day on the 20th and say, Andrea, whoops, I need Hemi Newman's number?
No.
How about the 21st?
Nope.
How about the 22nd?
Nope.
How about the 23rd?
Nope.
Did you get his number on the 24th?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. So your mistake that you made on the 19th persisted all the way up to the 24th, right?
Unfortunately, it did.
When did you get Hemi Newman's phone number?
I believe it was through the TLO report.
I'm sorry, sir.
It was either through the TLO report or the information we got off of her phone. I don't remember the exact time that we...
You have no idea as to the date when you would have gotten that information?
I don't recall right
Okay.
now.
Did you expressly ask for that report?
For the TLO report?
Yeah.
I don't remember if I specifically asked for it. It was part of just the normal course of investigation to pull that information on people that we need to interview.
Is that the report you were referring to yesterday?
The TLO report?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that is the document marked in States Exhibit number 23. It was dated on December the 15th. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, was there anything during that course of time to prevent you from picking up your phone, calling Andrea Sneiderman and saying, by the way, what's Hemi Newman's phone number?
No, because I didn't want to let her know that that Hemi Newman was starting to come up.
Okay. Hemi Newman was starting to come up, okay? And you said that Hemi Newman, you guys connected the dots on the 21st, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But before that time, before Newman's name actually had come up, was there anything to prevent you from picking up your phone, calling Andrea Sneiderman and saying, Andrea, the guy you told me about, your boss, could you give me his phone number?
There's nothing preventing me from doing that, but I also was focusing on the rental car and business contacts at that time. It was in a to-do list.
Just simply did not get around to it, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Next question.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm
Take your time. Ask as many as you need.
take my time. Yes, sir, I will. One moment, please. Okay.
That's all. You need a moment?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you needed a
Okay,
moment.
I was
Next
just
question.
figuring out where I was going next, okay?
Oh, that's fine.
Let me ask you this, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever ask Andrea Sneiderman whether she had a romantic relationship with Hemi Newman?
Those specific words?
Yes.
I did not. I asked the general question, was there Well, we heard the audio yesterday. The audio speaks for
Yeah.
itself.
Okay. Did you, so the answer is no, right? You never asked her
Those
if she
specific
had a
words, I did
romantic
not.
relationship
With Hemi Newman,
with Hemi Newman, right?
no was for anybody.
When you spoke to her on the 24th of November, did you ever ask her if she had a romantic relationship with Hemi Newman?
On the 24th, no, but I did start out the interview with telling her that I need to know all of the nitty-gritty, dirty information that she has, and she has to tell me the complete truth, because if she does not, there could be issues down the road.
Okay. Did you ask to see Andrea Sneiderman's phone during the course of the interview on November the 19th of 2010?
No, I did not.
And now, it was right there in the room with you, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, we actually at some point heard reference to it yesterday in the course of the interview. Did she have it in her possession all during that time?
Probably.
Probably means,
It was either in her possession or in the house.
okay. Did she have it with her when she came in for the interview on the 24th?
I don't remember her pulling the phone out, but my assumption is that she probably did.
Did you ask to see it at that time?
No.
Now, you had already subpoenaed her phone records, right?
Yes.
You were interested in the content of her phone, right?
Yes.
Why didn't you ask?
A mistake. It was a mistake.
Okay. Do you remember the portion of the interview where Steve Sneiderman's voice is first heard towards the end?
Which interview?
The November 19th interview, I'm sorry, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And that was well into the interview, almost towards the end, right?
That's correct.
Do you remember the interaction between he and Andrea at that time, when he first came into the room?
What I remember for any interaction with Steve was the assisting me in explaining what the search warrant was for, and the computers, and his understanding of the process of evidence, and basically confirming what I was trying to explain to the family.
Do you recall any actual interaction between he and Andrea when he first came into the room?
I don't recall that.
Fair enough, sir. You did ask about anyone who was familiar with Rusty's schedule or patterns, correct?
Yes, I did.
And that's how the subject of the Exterminator came up, right?
That's correct.
Now, Andrea, in the course of the interview, said, you know, I love the guy, but, you know, you asked about the patterns, so here's how you can contact him, right?
Yes, while we were talking about the Exterminator happened to make a phone call, and that's how we got his information.
Okay, so somebody actually got the Exterminator on the phone, right?
No, the Exterminator called the house.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was Herb that answered the call, and it was about to hang up, and they said, no, let the detective talk to him. And I said,
Okay.
all right, let me talk to him briefly, and I got his information.
Did you have any further interview with the Exterminator?
I followed up with the phone call. I followed up with the phone call of the Exterminator.
Yeah, but I mean, the bottom line is, who's fooling who? When you talk to the Exterminator, everybody was minimizing him as a potential suspect, right?
No.
Oh, so the Exterminator was not minimized as a suspect, is that correct?
The way Andrea presented the information was that he knew the schedule. She had more specific information about the Exterminator knowing Rusty's schedule, and he had called that day, so it was just a natural follow-up, since I had already spoken to him already, to find out what his schedule was and what he was doing.
Okay. Did you conduct any investigation concerning the whereabouts of Hemi Newman on November the 18th of 2010?
After we had the rental car information.
After the rental car. What investigation did you conduct after you determined that he had rented the car as to his whereabouts on that day, sir?
For the rental car day, when we found out the rental
I don't
car?
want to know about the rental car day. I want to know what investigation you conducted about the whereabouts of Hemi Newman on November the 18th of 2010. Specifically, what did you do?
Did nothing for Hemi. We didn't do anything to find out where Hemi was on the 18th.
No, I'm not asking on the 18th. I'm asking during the course of your entire investigation.
During the course of the entire investigation?
Yes. What did you do?
During the course of the entire investigation, specifically with Hemi, or the whole investigation in general?
The entire investigation of Hemi Newman.
Of Hemi
What
Newman.
did you do?
On the entire investigation of Hemi Newman,
Excuse me, are you asking him personally what he did?
I'm asking personally what he did as to the investigation that he conducted as to the whereabouts of Hemi Newman on November the 18th of 2010.
Go ahead.
Got the rental car information, found out that he rented the vehicle. We got the information for his contact information, and I gave that information to Sergeant Coralino because I had to leave.
Okay. So that's it, right?
That was it.
Okay. Do you have any idea where Hemi Newman was in the latter part of December of 2010, sir?
From what Sergeant Coralino told me,
No.
So what's the objection?
Hearsay.
I'm not asking, I have no,
Based on-
believe it should be sustained.
Yeah, I'm not sustaining
I'm with
that.
Ms. Hill on that one.
Can you, just listen to his question?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, answer his question.
absolutely.
I take it the answer is then no, right?
That's correct.
Okay. You have said a number of times that Andrea said it was a one-time thing and that was the end of it. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would just like to replay that very brief clip of the interview on the 19th in which the discussion concerns the subject of Hemi Newman. May I do so?
You may play it in its entirety if you wish.
No, not again.
No, I'm not limited to you. Say whatever you want.
But these folks would kill me if I did. So.
Go ahead. Cue it up.
Has there been anybody recently, when I say recently, within the past year, that has expressed an interest in you and in trying to break up the family?
Yes.
Who?
My boss.
Your boss?
Yeah.
Okay. What's his name?
Henny. What do I have to tell you?
Hemi? How do you spell that?
H-E-M-I.
Do you know what his last name is? What is it?
Newman. N-E-U-M-A-N.
N-U-M-A-N. How old is he?
46. I have no idea. In his late 40s.
What does he look like?
Short-ish. Todd's height.
How tall is he?
5'4".
How much does he weigh? Okay. Is he fat? Is he thin? No. Is he healthy looking?
Todd's size.
Okay, how much do you weigh?
150.
I'll tell you these as approximates. So it doesn't matter. Does he have white hair, black hair? What kind of hair?
Gray and black hair.
Gray and black? Pepper? Sorry, pepper? Is he balding?
No.
Does he wear glasses? Is there anything that's really distinctive about him? No? No. How has he tried to...
He hasn't done anything to break it down. He's just expressed his feelings.
But has it been through flirting? Has he specifically said, I'm interested in you?
Yes, he specifically said that. Yes.
Do you want to continue private?
No. It's fine. Go ahead.
Has there been anybody else? Previous to within this year, what kind of when you guys are married? No? Has there been anybody that's been interested in Rusty? The same way?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that information.
I really can't think of anything else then.
Okay, sir. When she brought the name up, your questions were, what's his name? When she brought up the subject of the boss, your questions were, what's his name? What's his age?
So you have to answer.
Yes.
What's his name, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's his age?
Yes.
What's his physical description?
Correct.
How tall is he?
Yes.
How much does he weigh?
Yes.
What kind of hair does he have?
Yes.
Is he balding?
Yes.
And then Shortly thereafter, you then segued over to anybody interested in Rusty, right?
Yes.
That's what you asked in response to the fact that Andrea Sneiderman had brought up the name of Hemi Newman, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I am going to ask that we play the interview of Mrs. Sneiderman that was conducted on,
What number is that?
it is, I believe, number 62.
Number 62. Is that state 62?
Yes, state 62.
Let me ask before you cue that up, what's the length of that one?
You don't want to know.
3 hours?
It's about 3.5 hours.
All right, that's fine. Cue it up. Oh, somebody said they want a break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, like you said, you don't tell me you need a break. I don't know you need a break, but you gave me the signal. You want a break. This will be 10 minutes. All rise.